students, today's agenda is to check homework. We'll be learning about square root transformations, and you will be able to do 8.4. Today, students will be able to graph square root transformations. And even though we're going to be doing square roots, I want to review the mother graphs of some functions. And again, remember that y can be y or f of x, which is exactly the same thing. So we say that y equals x is a linear graph. Y equals x squared, you will get a parabola. Y equals x cubed will be a curve. Y equals the absolute value of x, it's a v. And y equals the square root of x, which is what we're going to be graphing today, it's just one side. Also, before we start, we need to review some of the rules that we have learned in previous videos, but if this is something new to you, we're going to continue to see them, and in this lesson and the next one, we'll use these notes. So for translations, it means that it translates from one side to the other, or up or down. And so whenever you're adding plus h inside of a parenthesis, or if we're talking about the absolute value, like inside of the absolute value, and it can be any number in here, like x plus 5, it just means shift left. So for the absolute value, this means that you would move this graph 5 spaces to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then from there you would do the graph. Again, if you're adding inside of a parenthesis or the absolute value or the square root, then you're going to shift the mother graph left. And I know this might not make sense. It's going to make more sense once we start graphing the example, but you just make sure that you take these notes so that when we're using it, you come back to it. When we're subtracting inside of the parentheses or absolute value of or the square root, then it's going to shift to the right. So inside, it goes to the right, it's on x, the movement is on x, but the opposite. Not to the negatives, but to the positives. Now, what if you have f of x plus k? Again, h and k just represents any number, for example, a 5 or a 9 or a 3. When it's outside of the parentheses or outside of the absolute value, like if you have absolute value of x plus a number, then it's going to go up. In here, it's the shift is going to be on y. When it's outside, it's going to be on y, and it does follow the sign. If it's positive, it goes up. If it's negative, it will shift down. Okay? Again, inside of parentheses or any symbol, you shift on x the opposite. Positives go to the left, negatives go to the right. If it's adding outside, the shift will be on y, and it does follow positives go up, negatives go down. Now for stretches, well, stretches and compressions. Whenever you have a function, it will have something outside being multiplied as a coefficient. That is represented by a, but it could be 2f of x or 5f of x or 1/2 f of x. If a is greater than 1, meaning that it's a whole number, then it's going to be a vertical stretch. It's going to stretch like that, okay? The graph will grow tall. But if a is less than 1, meaning that it's a proper fraction, smaller than 1, it is a vertical compression. That means instead of being its normal size, it's going to be tinier, okay? It's going to be vertically compressed. So I'm going to put an example in here. If you have like a is a 2 or a is an 8, your graph will grow taller, okay? It's going to grow taller. But if a is, let's say, 1/2 or a is 1/3, then the graph will be compressed. It's going to be smaller. Instead of its regular size, it will be smaller. compressed. And so now let's go and see some examples. We're going to be combining several of them. Now for this lesson, we're not going to do a table. However, I do want you to see where that would come from. So what is the square root? Well, for the square root, you have x and y. What I recommend is you start with 0. And what is the square root of 0? You're just replacing, to find the value of y equals the square root of the value of x. If x is 0, then what is the square root of 0? Oh, the answer is 0. So that's what the value for y will be. Now, what if I put 1 in here? The square root of 1, I'm going to put, some calculators, you first put the square root. In others, you first put the number. So we'll see which one is this one. The square root is down there, so I'm assuming it's going to be, yep, you have to put the square root first and then. So clear, second function, the square root is down there. Sometimes the keys are on top, so you don't need the second function. In here, we need the second function because it's not the first function, but the second one for that key. So second function, that key opens the square root. I put number 1, close, and put equal. And the answer is 1. Now in here, I could use the square root of 2 in here. I'm not going to do that, but let me show you why. Second function, square root 2. Let me see if I get an answer without closing the parentheses. Yes, I do. It gets 1.41, and we don't want decimal points for these graphs. So what I recommend in here, because we're looking at square roots, that means that perfect squares will give us whole numbers. And what's the next square? Perfect square? 1. 2 times 2 is 4. That's the perfect, another perfect square. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. So for the values of x, you want to choose numbers that are perfect squares. That way, when you take the square root, which is its opposite, you just get, oh, the square root of 4 is 2. And again, you can check with your calculator if you're not sure. Second function, square root of 4 equals, that's a 2. Second function, square root of 9, that's 3. Okay, because 3 times 3 is 9. So again, just make sure that you choose perfect squares in here. What is the square root of 9? It's 3. Oops, I forgot to put that one in there. So this is 2, 3, and this will be 4. So 0, 0 is right here. 1, 1, 1 on x, 1 on y. 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It's right there. 9, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, around here. And so now we can graph, and that's our mother graph. That's just of y equals square root of x. Now let's see what we're going to be doing when we have those transformations. Okay, number 2 says y equals the square root of x minus 1 minus 6. So we see that we have minus inside. Again, in here we have a parenthesis, but sometimes it can be inside of a square root. So minus means shift to the right, not to the negatives, but to the positives. Inside is on x. The shift is on x. Outside, the shift is on y. So minus 1, shift 1 space to the right. And I'm going to work with this point right here. So 1 point to the right, but then we have minus 6 outside of that symbol of square root. And I forgot to close it in here. When we're subtracting outside, it's going to shift down. How many spaces? 6. So 1 to the right and 6 spaces down. So 1 to the right and 6 spaces down. So right here. That's that point right there. We can do the same thing for all the points, or just see, oh, that's right there. In here we go 1 and 3, so 1 and 3. And then from here we go 1 and 5, so 1 and 5 right there. Okay, or you can just count for this one, 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and put the point. For this one, 1 to the right, because it's doing that, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for that one, and 1 to the right and 6 down. And that's our new graph, our transformed graph. Transformed, it just means changed. Translated, it just means moved. It looks exactly the same, but it moved spaces. Okay, for number 2, we have +2. Inside, that means that it's going to go opposite. And it's always, inside is always on X, but the opposite. On Y, again, it's going to go down. If it was positive, it will go up. Okay, so 2 spaces to the left and 4 down. And we will do that to every point. So 2 spaces to the left is 1, 2, 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. The next one is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. This one, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. For this one is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's our mother graph, and this will be our transformed graph, where you add 2 inside and subtract 4 outside. Okay, for number 4, we have an addition, but we also have a multiplication. And when we're multiplying outside of the symbol, we're going to look at A. And you can do both transformations at the same time, or you can do them separately and then kind of highlight the actual finalized after the 2 transformations. Because on number 2 and number 3, we did both transformations. Going left was one transformation and going down was the second one. And you can do whichever you prefer first. For example, if you want to add 2 first, that's perfectly fine. All you have to do is move each point 2 space. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. From there, you're going to have to multiply by 3. If you want to do it like that, you can just go and do the graph from there, knowing that it's going to be multiplication of 3. That means it's going to stretch up, and so you went up already. For the multiplication, it doesn't have to be exact. You just need to know that it stretches, and so it would go something like that. Okay, now if you want to do it a little bit more exact, it's not required for the most part in this type of lessons, but what I want to do is look at the values of y, because you already took the square root of that value of the x. You already took the value to get y, and then multiply that by 3, and then go up 2 spaces. So that's the other way to do it. For example, in here, the square root of 0 is 0, times 3 continues to be 0, and then you go up 2 spaces, 1, 2, it's right there. So I'm doing it with blue now so that you can see the difference between doing it more exact than not, okay? So if the value of x is 1, the square root of x is 1, so that's the value of y. Multiply by 3, well, 1 times 3 is 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then go up 2 spaces, so 1, 2, it would be right there. With that, what we're doing is a table, but it's just with mental math. In our head, we're creating that table without really writing the values. So when x is 4, so for this point, x is 4, the square root of 4 is 2, that's for y. Multiply by 3, well, 2 times 3 is 6, 2, 4, 6, right there. And then we have to add 2, so 2 more, the graph would go through there. For the next one, the value of x is 9. The square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So 9 will be 3, 6, 9. Plus 2 more. 1, 2, about there. So again, you don't have to do that exact. If you gave this kind of pink solution, that will be enough in most cases, because they know that you're doing a stretch. Is not exact, but they know that you went up 2 spaces and then stretched it vertically. This is more like if you were doing the true values or creating a table. Okay, so if we only had y equals the square root of x, this would be the mother graph. Half of that and minus 5, that means that to begin with, we're going to start 5 spaces down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, because it's outside. Now for the rest, what you're doing is getting half of whatever that tallness, the height between x and those points are, get half of it, and then go down 5 spaces from there. So in here will be here. Half of 1 is 1/2. Go 5 spaces down, it would be 1. Notice how I'm jumping in the middle of the square. So 2, 3, 4, 5. It's right there. My next point is in the middle of that point. In here, half of 2 is 1, and go down 5 spaces, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. 3 in here is halfway in here, and again go 5 spaces down, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. Notice how the 1/2 compressed, made it chaparrita, okay, shorter. So that's the cariño. It's not putting people down. I would like to be chaparrita. Okay, so in here, what we're going to do is connect it. Notice how the graph is compressed, and also it went down. It went down, and this made it vertically compressed. So we didn't work so much with horizontal compressions and stretches, but in the next lesson, we're going to be combining those with also more translations. With this, we end our lesson. If it was helpful, please help us and share this video with others so that they can benefit. Also, don't forget to click the bell so that you can get notifications when we create new videos. You're also invited to visit us just to have fun with TikTok at MathMaria7. You'll see some encounters of math in the real world. And if you can please give us a thumbs up, subscribe around here. This will be the link to the entire unit, and here you will find the next lesson. Also, I'm trying to share some financial information so you can see it in here. We can straighten our finances. And now you're able to do 8.4. Have fun!